So welcome everybody to the session from Mandy Pang entitled Incorporating Operational Excellence into Content Creation. Mandy Pang joins us from FARFETCH APAC, and she is the Senior Head of Content Creation. Please remember to ask your questions in the Q&A panel, and I will try and get through as many as I can at the end of the presentation. And if we can't get through all of the questions, we will be sure to answer them after the event. Thank you, Mandy. Over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. So hello, everyone. Very delighted to be here with you all today and share the topic about how we incorporate operational excellence into content creations. So today, I will first briefly introduce you about FARFETCH and how the business model impact my department daily work, and then sharing the operational excellence element we consider and how we put that in action in our daily life. So before we start, a little bit about myself. I'm a Senior Head of Content Creation for FARFETCH APAC. I joined FARFETCH in 2015 and currently based in Hong Kong. When I first joined the company, I helped to set up the Hong Kong studio and recruiting the entire content creation team here. So over the 7.5 years time, as FARFETCH has scaled a lot, so I helped to build another studio a couple of years ago. So currently, my team is responsible capturing over 100,000 product imagery per year from the APAC region. So, and my role is overseeing the team and ensure all the product can be online in the shortest timing, the best quality, and in the most efficient cost. So, and prior to FARFETCH, I was a project manager for a crowdsourcing invention platform to manage the end-to-end process from product concept to a mass production. I've also worked for a New York designer brand as a production manager and managed multiple factory production in China region. So to those who wonder how we got 100,000 unique product per year, let me introduce you about FARFETCH business model. So FARFETCH launched in 2006 by a Portuguese founder, José Lopes. It is a global platform to connect the supplies, which is over 1,400 brands and boutiques, to the demand, which is our customer, private client from all over 190 countries. So within this marketplace, all the stock you see are from our partner and brand directly, because unlike traditional retail, we exist as an e-com platform to connect both supply and demand side, and we are not keeping stock ourselves. So with this business model in mind, it allows us to access to many unique stock from our brands and boutique partner. However, in order to provide a very luxury experience and consistent FARFETCH brand image to our customer, it comes to my department job to capture all the nice looking product imagery and upload it to the marketplace site. So because of our business model, my team will be the only team within FARFETCH able to actually see the product and capture all the necessary information and product detail in the system. So our customer often rely on the information for their buying decision. So it is my team job to capture the most accurate information and showcase the detail of the product through the imagery. So while making sure the team able to capture all this, ensuring all their work are doing in a consistent manner is also another key, as Hong Kong is not the only studio producing the product imagery. So since our partner located in different parts of the world, apart from Hong Kong, there are also another 2 studio locations shooting the product pictures for farfetch.com. So for any boutique and brands partner, and if they are located within the EU, they will be sending all their product to our Portugal studio. If they are located in Brazil, they will send it to Brazil. So for any product and for any product partner that they are outside EU and Brazil, they will all send to the Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is a tax-free box. It allows for the boutique partner easily send their product here without paying any imports or export taxes. So with this location advantage in mind, you can imagine the Hong Kong studio is indeed getting product not only from the APAC region, but it could be from Middle East or as far as from US and Canada. So in 2022, 3 locations were produced altogether around 500,000 products. And that's why I've emphasized our customer. That's why I'm emphasized that data and imagery consistency are very important. So we definitely do not want our customer able to identify the image differences because of the geographic locations. So internally, we have a very strict guideline to follow to ensure the consistency across the board. And not only we have a high volume, we also only have 5 days to process them. And here I'm going to show you the production flow. So all partners will send their product according to the production date assigned to our studio. As soon as the product arrives, our team will perform the step that we call scanning. It is a step that to register the product into our system for its arrival. The team will then separate a product into different categories, as some of the category might not go through live model and will go to the still shot directly. And after the scanning, our product will also go through the data entry process. So we are able to capture all the necessary information like material, composition, sizing, washing label, etc. into our system. So this step allows our remote description team to also write a description for each product. And then the same team would help steaming the garment and then ready for the stylist to do the outfit preparation, to do the model shot. So while the product going through the model shot, our size and fit agent will also look at how the product fit on the model and then input the fitting information into the system. So once the model shot is done, the product will then, based on their category, and go to the relative studio for the product shot. And afterward, our image specialist will perform a quality check just to ensure all the product we have shot in the right number of photos, as well as following the global guideline. So this is definitely a crucial step, not only to making sure we have the right quality of the picture, but you could imagine while our partners shipping their product from overseas to Hong Kong, we want to make sure we do not missing any important information or image to blocking the product to go live. So once the QC is done, our team will then double check the item just to make sure we have not made any damages during the process, and then return back to the right partner. So up to this point, the item physical process would take around 4 working days. So even though the physical process for the product are complete, the digital flow will still require 1 extra day. This is to allow the team based in other locations to do photo editing as well as description, so that the product can be ready to online. So with just the Hong Kong studio, we produced around 100,000 product imagery last year. And during the peak season, we could receive up to 700 to 800 items per day. And that's why we have multiple stations in each process. This would allow us to quickly process different category product without continue changing the setup. So we also create different daily target based on each station nature. For example, you can see the target of shooting jewelry is much less than shooting flat. So in order for us to manage both physical and digital flow systematically, it is important for my team to integrate the operational excellence model into their daily work. So obviously, operational excellence is a big topic, and due to the time limit, I can only pick out 4 pillars to talk about it. Your organization might define this pillar and the detail very differently, but the ultimate goal is to ensure the business outcome like KPI, customer expectation are being met on an ongoing basis. So I want to start with the organizational pillar, because how my team structure do help the others pillar. So within my team, we separate the team member into first the execution role, like the photographer, studio assistant, stylist, who all work with the product every day. They are more likely a target-driven individual. And then is the supportive role. Those do not work with the product directly, but supporting all the execution role like team trainer, technical photographer, planner, etc. And they are more likely to work as an activity basis. And then the last part is the management role. Those not only managing the both execution and supporting role, but also help to coordinate and communicate with other departments within FARFETCH. So one tips to share is like when my team were smaller and you might not have one full headcount for each supportive role. So some of the role could be performing 50% of their time in execution and 50% of their time in supportive. For example, with a 40 hours work with a photographer could spend 20 hours in equipment maintenance, and then while another 20 hours are focusing on shooting. So there's no set as stone rules that one person have to be 100%, as long as this is clearly communicated with the person on the role expectation. And of course, when you do daily planning, please to help the person to use their time in a more efficient way. Don't do 1 hour shooting and then 1 hour of maintenance and then 1 hour shooting again. Otherwise, the person will also lose their own rhythm. And then the importance of having a right structure is to ensure that there's a right amount of support to those in execution, and then at the same time, not to overload the management team. So the supportive role also helps us to flatter the organization and provide some vertical opportunity to the team. So because we have all the supporting team, it also enables us to drive the next pillar, which is the process excellence and improvement. So as mentioned in my production flow, we only have like 4 days to process a high volume item. It is critical for us to manage our shooting process in a repeatable and consistent manner. So we create standard work and process map for each workstation in order to help the team to execute the process in a very reproducible way. So with this document and from a management perspective, we can easily quantify all these steps into timing, hence the cost. And from the supportive role perspective, it helped them to identify the opportunity for improvement during the standardization. And from the execution team perspective, it also allowed them to understand how we come up the workstation's target. We also centralize all this document into one library. This is like the little screenshot you see here is the screenshot from my little library. So this definitely helps us facilitate all the onboarding and training, as well as the self-learning for the team. So with the same set of document, it also helps to ensure consistency across the board, no matter who is using it. Although it could be taking you some time to create all the documentation and build a library, but I will see it as an investment to build a good foundation for the operation team. So as much as we like standardize each process, even with a structured operations, continuous improvement is very much needed. However, improvement shall not be just a manager responsibility. And while the team is the one executing the process every day, our role should foster a process improvement environment for the team. So one of the program we run within my department every 6 months is we would select different photographers, stylists, or assistants, and they will work directly with my process engineer for improvement of their own area. So while most of them do not coming from an operational background, having this program provide them an opportunity to, one, identify and priority or what changes they want to make. And second, how can they carry this improvement in a systematic way? So below is an example on how my process engineer worked with a studio assistant to reshape a parcel arrival registration process. So by empowering the execution team on leading on these changes, we have definitely seen the team are more engaging and react way better when the improvement is coming from themselves instead of coming from the management team. So the third pillar is performance management. With the high volume and the product flow is so fast, a clear dashboard to reflect how the team perform would allow the planning team and the management team react quickly. So at the staff level, we track about individual productivity versus target and the timing they spend on different sets, as well as reshoots. So on the studio level, we track the production lead time, both from receiving and returning the product, and the lead time to have the product to go online, as well as the overall damage rate. So while some of the KPI, we cannot change it, we do review station target in a regular basis. Here, I do not mean we continue to increase the target, otherwise it will be quite depressing, but it's based on the reality to do the adjustment. For example, the cycle time to process a pre-owned item are very different from the cycle time to process a brand new item. Obviously, with a pre-owned item, it will be more time consuming for us to register the arrival condition of the product. So in this case, we'll create a separate target for those pre-owned partners in certain workstations. And then in opposite, you could be increasing the shooting target because of the process train, and you provide more extra support to your photographer. So maybe they no longer need to do lighting calibration every morning, and it allows them to be more focusing on shooting. So whether you're trying to increase or decrease the workstation target, I think it is super important for you to communicate with the changes and explain how you set out the new target fairly with the team. So the last part, but is the most important pillar to me, is the employee engagement and leadership commitment. So while there are so many studios out there and doing many creative work, my studio operation might not be the most exciting with the repetitive product shooting. But I do got questions on how I keep my team engaging, and I believe there are many aspects, far more than just the work itself. So here are a few drivers that my management team and myself are continues to work on. So first thing is the effective communication to create a transparency for the team. So within my team, there are regular one-on-one meetings between the manager and all their reporting line. So an effective one-on-one would allow a two-way communication, not only provide an instant feedback to your team member, but also having their voice to be heard. Also, we send out regular department email updates and having regional all hands so everyone have visibility of what is going on within the studio locally as well as globally. To avoid excessive meeting for all the team members, there are selective global meetings. We would also change the format to save time for everyone. For example, instead of having 40 people sitting there for an hour of Zoom call, the management team would take turns to summarize the content in an email format. So the rest of the team could still be able to read through the info through a 5-minute email instead of spending an hour sitting in a Zoom call. So another driver are rating and rewarding. So within our organization, instead of just getting yearly feedback from the peer during the year-end review, I encourage the team member to get a 360 anytime feedback. This means that they do not wait until the year end, but anytime when they finish a project, they can always get a feedback from their peer. So with anytime feedback, it allows the team member to understand what went well and what it could be improved for their next project. And at the same time, allows the manager to follow up for any assistance. Obviously, when things went well, it is important for the manager not taking it as granted, but recognize and celebrate with the team on their success. So within my team, and as I have introduced, different form of communication. I use, depends on the situation. It could be giving a private recognition during a one-on-one, or if it's a team achievement, it could be a public recognition during a team meeting or in a team email updates. So we always play, and also in our little break room, we always place a deck of thank you card so that everyone can use it when they want and appreciating each other. So the form of recognition is way more than just promotion or paying a bonus. For example, entrusted with more responsibility would also help the team member feel valued and drive the employee engagement. So at FARFETCH, we have 6 values to define our culture as well. But more than just work, it is actually the attitude that related to our ways of working. So the first value is be brilliant. It means that be unrivaled in everything you do with passion and ambitions. Don't let the complexity to stop you to go for extra mile. Just like building the documentation library I mentioned earlier, it is complex. It does take time to do, but it helps to build a very strong foundation for the team to grow. And then the second value is a make customer, meaning love and understanding our customer, keeping them in the front of our mind. So exceeding their expectation by delivering an unforgettable experience. I often ask my team to see themselves as a customer. And of course, we all shop at FARFETCH as well. So we are also part of the customer. So if we are buying this expensive top based on the imagery, like what would you like to do? Like how would you want to display the detail shot? How important for the size and fit information to you when you're entering, which will affect the buying decision. So all these questions I will keeping in the team mind will help them to keeping up with the quality, even though our environment is so repetitive. And another value is like think global. So FARFETCH is an international company. We're constantly working collectively as a united force. So it is important for us to welcome and respect everyone's different needs and being inclusive. Next value is to be revolutionary. It's also meaning that like we should disrupt the static approach and embrace innovation with a curious mindset. So we keep in mind this value, especially when we wanted to foster the continuous improvement environment. I often tell my team that don't settle with the process, even things went well. We shall keep our eyes open, and you will never know when there will be a next new tech coming out, which will help you to reduce the manual process. Be human, meaning be kind to the people around you. We solve problems with empathy and welcome mistake as a learning opportunity. So as much as we wanted to automate our works, the entire studio process is still full of a lot of manual work. When we are working with people and not machine, we all make mistakes, and it is inevitable part as being a human. So as a leader, we should always allow room for error. In my operation, we see error as opportunity to improve, and I find it more valuable. And I find it more valuable to actually focus on how it happened instead of who make that happen. And the last one is tudo junto, which is in Portuguese, meaning all together, and which is also, I feel, the most connected. So as much as my entire team is called the content creations, within the team that we in fact divided into photography team, styling team, studio assistant team, etc. So however, you do not want them to feel it as like a separate team, and you do want them to feel it as like a one team. So it is important for me because at the end, they are actually working on a department goal instead of just an individual goal. So what we do is like we try to create some opportunity for them to work across. For example, we'll have the studio assistant team to host a workshop to teach the other team on how to repairing damaged item, or having the photography team to host a workshop to teach other team about the camera. So at the end, the goal is just to give them more collaborative opportunity and make them feel one team after all. So all of these 6 values, I believe it is a very fundamental to FARFETCH, to my FARFETCH journey, and also to the success of FARFETCH. So that's all for my sharing today, and I hope everyone found the past 20 minutes useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. That was phenomenal. Honestly, I don't know how you can produce the volume that you do. How big is the team? Is it?
So my core team, including myself, supportive role, is around 40 people. But okay, obviously, 40 people are just the core team. We also use a lot of freelancer. So some of my team, depending on the nature. For example, if it's like in the photography team during the peak season, the ratio between the core team and the freelancer could be 50-50. But then when it's come to the studio assistant team, the core team ratio full year long, it could be 80% is core team and then 20% of freelancer, because there are so many manual process to teach, to train. So we rather to use more core team. But yes, from time to time, we use a lot of freelancer. It's not just the 40 people producing 100,000 imagery.
Yeah, wow. It's great that whilst you're focusing on efficiencies and, you know, quick production and quality, but I think what's really, really interesting is your focus on your employee engagement. I think without that employee engagement, as you rightly say, you know, because it is repetitive, it must be very challenging to excite the team in some ways. Do people use those thank you cards?
Yes, actually they do. Like, I think that we encourage them to use the thank you card. Obviously, it's not just, it could be like a very small thing. It could be like, oh, you're helping me to microwave my lunch, like small thing like that. We encourage them to use it. Well, I think that like something about like Chinese culture, like our parents, like don't always like show a praise like to us. But like, so this is like something that we actually have to push harder actually to making sure the team do that from time to time. And so as ourselves, I guess it's always like start from the management. Like if you make that laterally, they will actually start to doing it more frequently.
Interesting that you also, when you mentioned that people have got core jobs, but they also diversify their time doing other roles as well. How's that work?
Yeah. Yeah, so in my team, we actually with the core team, they are not 100% of their time fully working in a workstation. So let's say, for example, a 40 hours work week, we basically will have like 4 hours, like 90% of their time will be on shooting, will be on focusing the working with the product. But then there are 10% of the time that we actually, the company will save it to for any meeting, for any one-on-one or team training workshop. So we will actually play around with that 10% of the time. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, instead of having the entire team sitting there for 1 hour, we mix it for like a 5-minute email for them to read, so that they gain 55 minutes, or they can, and then they can utilize this 55 minutes for other things out. So I guess it's all about how you plan their time and how you can play around with that 10% of the time, so that they are able to do extra stuff. Well, not extra stuff, they can utilize that 10% to play around with that, like some interesting stuff that they are really love to do.
And you use timesheets, do you, is that how you track time from the team?
So every day when they finish their work, they actually have to inputting how much time that they spend on set, like what is their productivity. So we used it like a little app that we can track around their timing.
Okay.
And it's also for our planning too. So we know that maybe after a week, oh, this person actually maybe only spending 80% of their time. So next week she will need to catch up, or maybe she might be spending 100% of their time producing because we might be short on freelancer this week. So next week we will give that person a little bit room to do other stuff.
Wow. Some more questions from the audience. How do you manage the usage rights, including, you know, the talent that you use for the shoots?
So how do we manage the usage rights
for the talent? You know, so for the model shots.
Well, obviously, with us, like we have a lot of like legal team works behind that. We sign all the contract. You know, no matter with the model agency or with our freelancer. So we have like all this like T&C have to sign before we have to, you know, before everyone coming into the studio. So this is how we're protecting ourselves.
And do you use a DAM and a PIM to manage the large number of images and marketing text that needs to be listed online?
Yes, we do. Yeah. We do. We actually will implement the DAM. Well, believe it or not, we're actually implementing the DAM just like a couple years ago, you know, within my 7 years here. So we actually customize the DAM that we use, like, because there are so many different processes that we have to go through, and it's like so unique just to FARFETCH. So we actually customize, we work with a company and then we customize the DAM and then implement in the studio. And believe it, when we launch it, we actually have to launch it by phases, because it's just like so big and we don't want it to impact the volume. So we have to launch it like first by QC, and then later on in the live model station, and then later on in the flat station. So we have to launch it phase by phase when we first launch it. I guess it takes like 6 months to launch it within the free locations.
Yeah, sure. And with the that document space that you've got, I've lost it in my notes,
library.
The library, yes. So what do you use for that? What tool do you use for that?
So there are multiple uses for that. Because we have so many processes, even with our trainer, she or he cannot remember all these processes. So what we do is, like, obviously when people onboarding, we'll use it. We'll ask people to go through, okay, some of the documentation will go through with them, but some of them we actually mix it video so that they can just watch the video themselves. Otherwise, it could be a trainer sitting next to a core team person for like an entire week just for training. Right. So we allow the new joiner to watch it, and even within our team, from time to time, we will go back and look at the process. Is there anything that we should change? Is there anything we should improve based on the partner requirement or the company requirement? So this is how we use it. It's not just for the new joiner, but also for the existing team. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. I've got lots more questions as usual, but I'm being told it's time to wrap up now. Mandy, I very much appreciate your time. I know the audience very much appreciates your time as well. We do have questions from Stephen and Naomi. However, what we will do is send them to you afterwards, and then we can respond to the questions after the event.
Sure. Of course.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
No, you're
nice
very welcome. Lovely. Up next, we join Kevin Ong, who's the head of studio at Dentsu Creative Singapore. And he offers something slightly different. It's his views on creative resource planning and optimization. See you there. Thanks a lot.